I've just recently moved to Canada. If you can't tell by the accent, I am Australian. Yeah, g'day, mate. How's that? Is that Australian enough for you? Bloody crikey dingoes and Vegemite there, mate. She'll be right. Yeah, nah, yeah, nah. I don't know. I hope that was Australian enough for you. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going over a video that I wish that I'd done on my very first video, and that is the booktube newbie tag. Now you might be wondering, why am I sitting out in the woods if I'm doing a booktube video? And that is an excellent question. And the answer to it is quite simple. One of the questions in this booktube newbie tag is, where do you like to read? Personally, I like to go for a walk in nature and find somewhere out in the middle of nowhere where I can read. And if you are insanely introverted like myself, I'm sure you'd be able to understand why being away from people when you're reading, especially when you're at a really good part, is such a great idea. If you're wondering what this place looks like, I actually just did a read with me video, where I sat here for about half an hour and actually saw a few chipmunks, which was really cool. But let's jump straight into it with question number one. Why did I start this channel in the first place? So the reason I started booktubing in the first place is because I lack direction and motivation. Just put it bluntly and just to be completely honest, I love books. I've always loved books. I love reading. I love the sense of satisfaction I get from reading a book, and I love keeping books. You know, I love to display my books. I think it's fantastic. My only issue, however, is that for some reason, I can never just sit down and read a book, or I can never find good books to read. So the reason I started this booktube channel in the first place was to keep myself honest and to make sure that I had to read. And honestly, it's been the best decision I've made. Because since starting this booktube channel, I've read more books than I've read in my entire life. So this booktube channel has done exactly what I needed it to do. It's kept me honest, it's kept me motivated, and it's kept me reading. Question number two, what can I bring to booktube? What a weird question. But, I mean, if you like hiking, I tend to go out hiking a lot to try and find places to read. Also, I am an author myself, so not only do I do booktube videos, but I've also done a lot of how to write book videos. And I also want to do a lot of free readings on my channel, where basically I just read my book to you. No charge, just two people hanging out reading a book. Question number three, what are you excited about for this channel? Honestly, I can't wait to look back in a year or 2 years and just see all of the new friends I've made, all of the books I've read, and all of the spirited debates I've had about books. For example, do you think it counts as reading a book if you listen to the audiobook? I know a lot of people that think it does. I know a lot of people that think it doesn't. Give me your thoughts down below in the comments. And further to that, what about ebooks? What do you think about ebooks? That's just one of the spirited debates I hope to have. Question number four, why do you love reading? Personally, I love reading because it is such an intimate experience. And to really kind of get across what I mean is, if you've ever been sitting down and you're reading a book and, you know, your brother, your sister, your boyfriend, girlfriend, mum, dad, friend, dog, whatever, comes and looks over your shoulder at what you're reading, your first instinct is to hide your book because it just feels so insanely personal to you. And it is so intimate because two people that read this same story will not imagine it in the same way. It is personal to you. But not only that, I mean, I love escapism, I love exercising my brain, I love writing stories, so I love reading stories. I mean, can anyone really nail down just one single reason why they love reading? Question number five, what book or series got you into reading? Now see, I'm going to give two answers here, because the first book that I ever read that really sparked and really made me know that reading was something I could get into was, it was a collection of stories by Emily Rhoda, I believe, and it was called Rowan of Rin. And I was quite young at the time, I might have been 10. I was at one of those scholastic book fairs. I came across the book, I bought it, and I loved it. But the second part of this question is actually a little bit more dark, because where I grew up was extremely bigoted and homophobic, like to the point where it was like the bad guy in like a Christmas movie. And it was so bad that if you were a guy and you showed any kind of feminine traits or anything that the people in the town would consider a feminine trait, you weren't just like a social outcast, you were actively downtrodden, to put it in a way. And unfortunately, the town I lived in, reading was considered a feminine trait, so nobody that was a man read anything in the town I grew up. Luckily, however, when I turned 18, I joined the army, I left my crappy homophobic town, and on my march out when I left boot camp in the army, I actually went to a little local bookstore, and at the little local bookstore I found Throne of Glass. I read it, I was like, oh yeah, it's alright, whatever. But then after Throne of Glass, I read the Night Angel trilogy by Brent Weeks. And then after that, I read Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. To make this relatively short, simple question a bit more complicated, that's the order of books that I read to really... After I finished that Prince of Thorns trilogy, I was like, okay, reading, I'm definitely into this. Question number 6. What challenges will you face starting this channel? Obviously, number 1, like a lot of book readers, I am incredibly introverted. So talking to a camera is obviously going to be a really weird experience to get into, but I feel like I'm coming across kind of natural. So, 10 points to Ravenclaw. But also that it's going to feel weird if I have to give a bad review to a book. Because, who am I to say that a book is bad? Obviously, reading is subjective, and I'm entitled to my own opinion. It is all personal opinion. But that's the one thing that I'm really concerned about, is giving bad reviews to books. But it's like I always say, just because something is bad doesn't mean you can't enjoy it, and just because something is bad doesn't mean you can't learn from it. So I feel as if as long as I give a constructive, bad review, it'll really kind of mitigate that. Question 7. Where do I read? Right here. I read in the wilderness, I read in the woods. I've just recently moved to Canada. If you can't tell by the accent, I am Australian. Yeah, g'day, mate. How's that? Is that Australian enough for you? Bloody crikey dingoes and Vegemite there, mate. She'll be right. Yeah, nah. I don't know. I hope that was Australian enough for you. But since moving to Canada, we're just coming out of winter right now, so the ground has just recently melted. I'm sitting on my jacket because the ground is still wet. I live in Jasper National Park, which is a really beautiful place. So in the next coming, month, 2 months, we're going to go into summer, so I'm going to be doing a lot of hikes, and I'm going to be finding a lot of places along the way to just kind of sit down and read. This is where I like to read. In nature. Like I said earlier today, I had 3 chipmunks running around me. That was so cool. Because we don't have chipmunks where I'm from, so that was really, really just one of the coolest experiences. I've seen elk, I've seen coyotes, I've seen squirrels, I've seen a moose, I've seen deer, I've seen deer with big rabbit ears, plus a whole host of birds that just never stop yapping, but are really quiet right now. Anyway, this is where I like to read, in the outdoors. But when it rains, I personally love the rain. But when it rains, I love to sit by the window and read, just like everyone else. Like nice coffee, nice hot chocolate, green tea I love. Anywhere cozy, anywhere outdoors, give me a hammock, whatever. I will read wherever, whenever, in any place that'll take me. Question 8. When did you start reading? I feel like I covered that already. I started and then I stopped because of social influences that told me I shouldn't be reading. And then I restarted once I joined the army. And the final question is, what books do you enjoy reading? That's a really good question. Personally, I like fantasy, sci-fi, I'll read high fantasy, low fantasy, I'll read young adult. I don't really dislike the distinction there. I feel like there's a place for both. I really enjoy reading books that became movies or TV shows, such as The Queen's Gambit. Actually just read that the other day. In case you're wondering, The Queen's Gambit is actually pretty good. Really fast paced for a book that is about chess. I like to read books that are converted, that way you can tell or you can see how they have changed this book. Whether they completely change it, such as I Am Legend, or whether they stay really true to the source material, like, say, The Hunger Games. I'll read anything, but mainly my main go-to is fantasy and sci-fi. But I'm really open to anything, as long as it's good. Anyways, guys, that was my booktube newbie tag. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'd actually really appreciate that. Leave a comment. Tell me what you're reading right now. Tell me what you think of my introverted reading paradise. And as always, thank you very much.